For all verified facts, subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Hello and welcome. On the 2nd of July, the Indian Council of Medical Research sent out a letter saying it had partnered with pharmaceutical company Bharat Biotech International to fast-track clinical trials of an indigenous COVID-19 vaccine. This would be the first indigenous vaccine and being monitored at the topmost levels of government, that letter said. It was also envisaged that this vaccine be launched by the latest of, that is 15th August, after completion of clinical trials. And the final outcome would depend on the completion of all clinical trial sites, on the cooperation of all clinical trial sites involved in this project, and there are 12 of those. So this was part of the letter that was sent out. The question that we are asking now is, can a vaccine obviously be launched so fast, considering that nowhere else in the world is a vaccine seemingly so close to being launched into your hands? The second is, what is the normal process involved in creating a vaccine and actually testing it and ensuring that it's safe when it reaches you? And finally, what should you be doing if you were to be in the market looking for a vaccine? Should you be buying it and administering it either on yourself or your family members? And that's the third and most important question we'll come to. To discuss this, I'm joined by Dr. Anant Bhan, who is trained as a medical doctor with a master's degree in bioethics from the University of Toronto. He's also right now an adjunct professor at the Department of Forensic Medicine at the Kasturba Medical College, Manipal. Dr. Bhan, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Right. So first question, tell us about what it takes for a vaccine to be created, and then we'll come to COVID-19 specifically.
Sure. So thank you for having me. A vaccine typically, it depends on the development pathway and which disease we are talking about. But in most cases, a vaccine is a preventative biomedical intervention, which is aimed at providing immunity against a particular disease. So, we have a long history with vaccines. We know that there are many vaccines which are already used in our national programs. Most of our kids in India are vaccinated for a variety of conditions. And so there is a long history of safety. There is a long history of research in this domain. In the particular case of COVID-19, we know that we are dealing with a new novel virus. We also know that there is not a lot known about the virus because we've only, been dealing with it over the last few months. But typically in vaccine research, what you would do is you would decide a particular vaccine candidate that might be chosen either by a set of researchers or a pharma company. You focus on that vaccine candidate, you take it through preclinical development, where you will do some degree of lab research, then you will take it to animal studies. You might have to do more than one species of animal studies depending on the regulatory regime which applies to you. Once you have data from that, and if the data is promising, then you would go ahead and make a submission for human trials, right? So in India, for example, you would need permission from the Drug Controller's Office, the CDSCO, and you would go to them with this preclinical data and say that, we want to go ahead with human studies. Here is the data that we got from our preclinical data studies, and here is the animal data, and we feel there is a promise in terms of going ahead with human studies. They look at that, make a decision, and then you would be probably given permission for phase 1 studies. Phase 1 studies are typically safety studies. So these are studies done on human volunteers to see if that vaccine candidate, when it's administered, especially at particular doses, is safe. You don't get any major side effects that, what kind of side effects you are seeing are then monitored, they are logged, and then you make a decision whether, once again, can you go ahead based on that safety profile. Once you've made the safety decision, typically you will go into phase 2 studies, which are immunogenicity studies. What we mean by immunogenicity is that you are going to try and see if the vaccine which is given to a normal person, just like you and me, who's uninfected, does it generate any kind of an immune response? Because as we know, in the natural course of infection, including for viral infections, you develop antibodies at some point of time. They might take a few weeks to be generated. Those antibodies can be protective in nature. So in a way, what you're trying to do through the vaccine is to generate those protective antibodies. So in phase 2 studies, you'll see if that vaccine candidate actually does generate protective immune response in the body. If it does, and if that is seen to be satisfactory in terms of potentially having a benefit, a protection benefit, if you were to actually get infected by the live virus, the natural virus which is circulating, then you would get permission to do the phase 3 studies. Sometimes they're also called phase 2B studies, which are typically efficacy studies. Now, efficacy studies are meant to check if the vaccine candidate, once administered to the clinical trial participant, gives you protection against the actual infection. So, if there would be a whole lot of us who are administer the vaccine, there will be another group which might be a placebo group, which is not given the active vaccine, or there might be an active control, which is given another sort of vaccine, and then you would compare within the two groups if the intervention group, which is getting the candidate vaccine, shows better protection against the infection. So, for example, in the HIV vaccine trials, what we do is you will have two arms, where it's just the intervention arm gets the HIV vaccine. The placebo arm might get just a normal, vaccine without any active ingredient, and then you would advise them that, both groups, you would tell them you need to use condoms, you don't, participate in any risky behavior. But then you would know that some of them would still go ahead and do that, and then you would check across the two arms whether there is any kind of a difference that you see in terms of outcomes, which in this case is acquiring HIV. So similarly for COVID-19, you would typically probably have two arms, the active arm or the intervention arm, and then the control arm. And in the active arm or the intervention arm, you would give the new vaccine candidate, and in the control arm, you would give a comparator, which could be another disease vaccine. For example, in this case, Bharat Biotech has decided to go with the Japanese encephalitis vaccine, if I remember correctly, and then see if giving that vaccine does provide you any benefit in terms of protection if you were to be exposed to infection. Now, the challenge there also is that in these studies, because of ethics reasons, you would need to make sure that you have to tell individuals that you should be protecting yourselves, you should be using masks, you should be washing your hands, you should be maintaining physical distancing. So the numbers required for those studies tend to be quite high, because only when you get that high numbers will you have enough cases or enough infections across the two arms to be able to say with confidence that the vaccine works or not. So again, as you can imagine, because these are complex steps, and at each of these steps you need to look at the data closely and also take regulatory permissions before you go to future steps.
Right.
Because one, there is a regulatory reason, and two, there are resources we are using which can be costly in either if it's public sector funded or funded by the pharma company.
Right. So what about timelines? So even if everything is crashed and really brought down, what are we looking at?
So the shortest timeline, I think, which has ever existed for vaccine which has been found efficacious is at least a few years. I know in this pandemic response, almost everyone has a sense of urgency. That includes even agencies like WHO. And everyone has talked about how can we expedite our drug development as well as our vaccine development in a way that we can get a product which is working in a fast manner. That having been said, there are things maybe you can expedite. You can get your approvals faster. You can try to reduce the time lag in between phases, etc. Take decisions faster. But the basic minimum requirements you would need in terms of safety data, in terms of efficacy data, in terms of ensuring that procedures and protocols are followed from a quality perspective, you cannot skip that. For example, if I'm looking at an immune response, I will need to follow that individual up for a definite amount of time to know how long is that protection lasting for. Is this a long-term protection? Is it a short-term protection? Is it a medium-term protection? Otherwise, you will never know, what is the utility of that vaccine. Do you need to give a single dose? Do you need to give booster doses? How frequently do you need to do booster doses, right? So you need to know all of that information to know what is the exact utility of that vaccine if ever you were to use it. So because of those reasons, these are elements you cannot skip, right? And hence expediting it beyond a certain limit is not going to be possible.
Right. So here it says that the subject should be, or the subject enrollment, which is of volunteers, I imagine, should be initiated no later than 7th July and then launched by 15th August. So effectively a month and 1 week.
Correct. So it's likely that some of this development has probably started earlier than the 1st of July. They must have done preclinical, I presume, earlier and given that data to the Drug Controller's Office and gotten permission for phase 1 and phase 2. Because the Clinical Trial Registry of India entry seems to indicate that they have permission for phase 1 and phase 2. That having been said, the trial has only been registered on the 1st of July. The letter says that they should be doing their participant recruitment by the 7th of July. The Clinical Trial Registry entry indicates that the day when they will initiate participant recruitment is the 13th of July. Now, there are two different dates. Let's assume for convenience sake that it's second week of July sometime. even with that, imagine that you're doing both safety and immunogenicity. I would tend to think it's not going to be possible to even finish probably phase 2 by the 15th of August if you're doing it right. I mean, I'd be very, very surprised if there is any way of getting that done. But what the letter seems to indicate is that they will have even efficacy data available 15th August and be ready for public use, or to go and distribute it in the public, which means that you're also not just have you finished your studies, you've also done your manufacturing, and it's ready for distribution.
Right. Okay. Now, in a normal course, assuming there was no urgency and so on, what is the time that all these, including these 3 phases of trials, a normal vaccine would take or would have taken in the past?
A normal vaccine's at least a few years, upwards of 3, 4, 5 years. At least with Ebola, etc., they've tried out, as I said, compacting it. Normal vaccines, see, if you look at rotavirus vaccine, which is one of the vaccines we worked on in India extensively, it took more than a decade. Chickenpox vaccine, the varicella vaccine, which is widely used in India, took more than 2 decades of development. So over the last few years, there have been efficient ways of trying to collapse some of these timelines and trying to find out if the vaccine candidate is promising enough that you want to take it further forward. So there are ways like human infection models, also called controlled human infection models, CHIM studies, which help make some of those decisions on a faster basis. But that having been said, anything under a year is, to my mind, very, very difficult. I think, even that's the global consensus.
Right.
At the earliest, I think if we have a vaccine, it will only be probably Q1, Q2 of next year. Even that would be very difficult, but I think if people keep pushing, there's a small possibility that we might have something. But anything before that would be very, very difficult globally.
Right.
Not just
Right. And my next question is, so this is a company that has been in this business, has produced vaccines of different kinds. And mostly I'm assuming that they're all successful because they're all existing vaccines. So the problem here is, this is for someone who's watching this, is that this could be the right vaccine, but it's not tested and there's not sufficient data to understand whether it's effective. Am I right?
Yeah, until we have that efficacy data, we don't know. We also need to know, safety data, which is slightly long-term in nature, right? Because if the vaccine is just about being developed now, we don't really know what the longer-term implications. Sometimes the side effects can take a while to start popping up, and so hence, you also have the pharmacovigilance done with most active drugs or vaccines which are given, right? So to ensure that you're not seeing any longer term safety issues. But even if we say that we're looking at the short to medium term, you would at least want to follow up some of these individuals for an X amount of time to know that, this efficacy lasts, that protection lasts for a while. Because remember, as I said earlier, we don't know enough about the virus. We don't really know if there is a possibility of, know enough about reinfection, about reactivation of infection, about the possibility that your immunity levels might drop. How long does the immune response help? Beyond a time, are you again susceptible to the viral infection, etc. So I think from that perspective also, we would be careful in terms of whatever estimates we make about the vaccine. And hence, you also need to build in those time intervals in a way that you are confident about whatever you're saying. The other thing being, there is a global race for a vaccine, right? So it's not just India that is looking out for a vaccine. Almost many other major countries are looking at this. And everyone is interested in seeing who else is working in this domain. And so the eyes are on us as well, that the quality of science that we exhibit or should be exhibiting should also be of the same quality that we would expect of a foreign vaccine. If tomorrow another group comes up with a vaccine and we want to import it for use in India, we would have an expectation that it's gone through proper due process and then only used in our population. So similarly, they would have the same expectations of us.
Right, and that's a good point. Last question, Dr. Ban. So, as a consumer, assuming something gets launched with all these deadlines being compacted and manufacturing process, distribution, supply chain, everything sorted out, and it lands at the chemist shops on the 16th of August or thereabouts, should I buy it or not?
If I was someone in that position, I would probably not buy it because I would just not be confident about the data or that we have done enough on the safety, efficacy, quality side. But I would tend to think that the folks involved in this, both ICMR and Bharat Biotech, have a long history of working in the vaccine space. The ICMR has been around for many years. It's done a lot of research. It's also done a lot of vaccine research. And Bharat Biotech, as you were pointing out, also has done a lot of work in the vaccine. Polio, rotavirus as well. It's a big manufacturer for the global vaccine supply. So they wouldn't release anything in the market unless they were sure. And again, the regulator also has an important role to play. We've also not been discussing the role of the Drug Regulator's Office, which is an important oversight mechanism to ensure that whatever data on the basis of which anything is being decided in terms of marketing or licensure, is it sound enough for allowing that to actually happen. So I think the drug regulator, in this case CDSCO, also needs to play an important role in helping assure all of us that all of those due processes have been followed and the data has been looked at closely.
Right. So there are two things that the world is looking forward to. One is a vaccine and the other is a cure. A vaccine is seemingly around the corner, but obviously we need to wait. We need to inform ourselves of how vaccines are created before we take a call on actually administering one to ourselves. So that's the important lesson here. Dr. Bhan, thank you very much for joining us and sharing your insights and thoughts, and hope to speak to you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.